Good evening, everyone. Greetings from Flashcards. I'm Suniti Kulkarni, co-founder of Flashcards. Flashcards is an education platform which is in the business of helping students. We take the students, we handhold them, we take them, we are by their side right from 8th standard upwards, right up till 10th standard. We're hoping to get to 11th also. And we cover a whole range of services which help the students in their journey to college. Flashcards is here to help the young students in finding their niche. So thank you everyone, students and parents, for joining us in our sixth session actually of a unique program which will give you a better understanding of various professions and avenues that are there. These sessions will give you an insight into the life of young professionals that we have invited. They will give you food for thought. Do you think you like doing such a course? Do you think you have the aptitude for it? Do you think you can do this as a job for 15, 20 years? And most importantly, do you think you can have fun doing such a job? We have invited these young speakers. They are going to help you to give an exposure so that they will give you pointers so that you can actually figure out, you can Google, you can talk to different people and find out whether you really want to do what these young professionals are doing. So these sessions will also give you an opportunity and time to research before you are at the threshold of 11th standard, where unfortunately with our Indian system, you need to select your subjects. So you will probably and an informed decision with all of this information and research that you're going to be putting in. So relax, sit back and enjoy and participate in the sessions. Our speakers are young, dynamic people who will click with the millennials. Before we go any further, I would also like to tell all of you that our previous sessions recordings are ready. I will share it with you on the broadcast. I will give you the links so that you can actually access them if you wish to access them. And our number is, please do take it down in case you have any questions. Our number is 80802 44981. Do write to us with any questions that you have. If you need to ask us any questions for future sessions. Over to you, Nitin. Let's sit back and enjoy what Sanjana and Damini have to say.
Okay, thank you very much, Suniti. So my name is Nitin Kulkarni. I'm the other half of Flashcardz. Suniti and I started this work together several years ago with our children, actually. And now it has grown to help many more school-going children. So I am going to introduce our panelists who are with us today. And I am going to start with Sanjana Jain. Sanjana is currently working as an associate analyst in the Antitrust and Competition Department at NERA Economic Consulting in New York. So she's dialing in from New York. She works with companies who are planning to merge or acquire to prepare reports containing thorough empirical evidence and in-depth market research to submit to Federal Trade Commission or Department of Justice. Because there are a lot of due diligence needs to happen whenever major acquisitions and mergers happen. Prior to this, she has done Bachelor of Science from the School of Economics, NMIMS in Mumbai. And then she went to New York University for her Masters of Arts in Economics. So that is Sanjana. Welcome, Sanjana. I'm now going to introduce our other panelist. Her name is Damini Dabhorkar. She's joining us from Singapore. She is a commodities market editor working with a petrochemicals pricing and intelligence multinational corporation in Singapore. She's currently working in Singapore. She helps to assess market prices of a certain set of commodities through research and other means which are used by buyers and sellers in the market. She's a graduate from the Ferguson College in Economics from Pune. And then she did an MSc in Applied Economics from NTU, Singapore. So I am going to get started with our panelists, and I am going to ask my first question to Damini. And my first question is, so I know, Damini, economics has been generating a lot of interest over the last several years. I have seen a lot of interest, a lot of buzz around economics. And I personally know several children, several students who have gone in for different sorts of careers. So what we would like you to start with is by telling us what sorts of career choices are available, opportunities are available to students in economics. Over to you.
Thanks. Thank you. So I'd say that economics is a very, very vast field, and you have all kinds of career options depending on your interest. So I would categorize the kind of professions that you would go into two categories. One is academia or teaching, and the other is corporate jobs where you work in companies, work in all kinds of companies. So I'll talk a little bit about teaching or academia and what kind of jobs you get after that. So if you want to go into that direction, academia, you could become a professor at a university. Any university. There are so many great universities. Raghuram Rajan is a professor at Chicago. So you could go into teaching. You could go into research. There's so many different fields in economics. There's financial economics, there's environmental economics, behavioral economics, where you study how people make decisions related to money. So you can go into research into these fields. You can take up policy making, which is basically getting into the public sector or getting into government sector, and helping create policies within the economic space. And you could even become an economist with organizations like the World Bank, IMF. So there are a lot of avenues that you can get into with studying pure economics. And to get into these kind of fields, you would need to do a bachelor's in economics first, followed by a master's, and in most cases you would also have to do a PhD, which is generally a 5-year course. So that's a little bit about getting into teaching, getting into research, where you study pure economics. Now there's also, corporate jobs, and maybe Sanjana can tell you a little bit more about corporate or, those kinds of jobs.
Okay, thank you, Damini. Yes, so completely agree with Damini on the academia part of it, where, as she said, usually a PhD is required for any good professorship position, especially in the US, and now it has even started in India. However, for corporate jobs, a PhD is of course not necessary. However, bachelor's and master's is necessary. But what does a corporate job entail? While, say, your bachelor's can be in economics, your master's, you can use that to specialize, right? You can specialize in financial economics, as Damini said, or you can do an MBA even after economics. That's a great option again, because you have a good base with economics. You understand markets, and like, I understand these are students of school, so I'll try to use as plain language as possible. You understand, when you study bachelor's in economics, you essentially are getting exposed to, how is the price of a good determined? What is demand and supply? What are interest rates in the economy? You've heard these terms going around. What is the GDP of a country? So when you have a base like this, you understand businesses, that what is their cost, how are they making decisions, and then you can go on to pursue MBA. So economics makes a good base for several other degrees like MBA, financial economics, behavioral economics, if that's a research related, if you want to go in the research related field, or you can do econometrics, which is again a very niche field, but again a lot of maths and statistics involved depending on your aptitude for it. And uh, yeah, and mostly corporate jobs are related to doing market research, analyzing company data. For example, I would analyze company financials, company data, industry, like the market data, and yeah. So the corporate jobs are usually in the category of analyst, researcher, etc.
Mm. Okay, very interesting. So a couple of things you said there. So Damini mentioned Raghuram Rajan. So Raghuram Rajan was 1 year my junior in IIT Delhi. We used to play cricket together. Yeah. So he went on to become an economist later, and he's a professor and so on. And behavioral economics you mentioned, in fact, it is one of the hottest fields going. It's a combination of psychology and economics. And people like Daniel Kahneman and all have done absolutely wonderful work over the last 25 years in that field. It's a really amazing branch of specialization. So thank you. That's a wonderful segue into the careers available. I want to ask you next, and I'm going to start with Sanjana this time. Sanjana, what does a day? You are a professional in economics. You work for an organization, for a corporate. What does a typical day look like in your life, in your work life?
Yes. First, I want to say it sounds very fancy sometimes to say that you're working in economics. However, it also requires a lot of it's economics is a very broad subject, right? It has you cannot limit it to say just it's not just about money, it's just not about uh, cost or making such decisions. It's really about understanding the market, understanding why people make decisions, how people make decisions, right? How they allocate the resources. In plain language, how is the company choosing to allocate its money? How is a household, choosing to allocate its money? As an individual, how are you allocating your time? So that's something, again, it sounds very fancy, but it touches a lot of avenues. For me, I work a typical corporate job over here in New York. My day starts with, I think, a very, uh, uh, I would say, a very good quality or a quality which is definitely needed while working in this profession is teamwork. You have to be adaptive to others. You have to learn from others. You have to coordinate with your team. So my day starts with having a meeting with my team where we discuss what our goals are. We discuss our problem definition. We decide, okay, this is what we are planning to accomplish in today or in this week. Then it involves a lot of I don't know how many of you know that, but again, economics requires a lot of coding. So I mostly work with Python, and we do a lot of data analysis. So it's not just a tech job which is working with, Python, and R is another language if you know about it, or Stata. As an economist, definitely need to know a coding language in today's world. And so I do a lot of data analysis. Then in doing that data analysis, what we do is make conclusions out of it. That is what is most rewarding for us as economists. Say a typical person in the computer science field, they're working with data, they are making some application, etc. What we are doing is we're working with data just like them, with 10 GB data, 15 GB data, 20 GB of data. However, where our specialization comes in is where we make conclusions of it. What are we drawing from it? That, okay, this chart looks like this. I made a chart using Python. It looks like this. How is this going to affect the company? What does it tell us that what kind of decision should the company make based on such a data analysis? So yeah, that's typically my day usually.
Wow.
It starts with a lot
Wow.
of coding and yeah, conclusions in the end.
I wish I was as smart as you at your age. And the sorts of things you are talking about are quite Quite amazing. Over to you, Damini. What does a typical
And
day look like for you?
no,
Damini, what does a day look like for you?
So yeah. So very similar to Sanjana. Also, we begin our days with with a team meeting, and usually we discuss the latest news or developments that that are relevant to my job. So because I work in the petrochemical and oil and gas industry, geopolitical events, things like right now COVID, even mentioning geopolitical events, there's fighting going on between Ukraine and Russia at the border. So that affects my job, the work that I do. So these are kind of things that we discuss in our morning meeting. And my role is basically is a little bit of a combination between an editor and an analyst. So as an editor, I basically speak to different clients all across the world. So these clients are buyers and sellers of different commodities or petrochemical products. And what I do is the prices that I get from them, prices keep changing every day, every hour. So the prices that I get from these, these buyers and sellers, I put into a report along with other information, demand of that commodity, supply of that commodity, and basically an overview of the market situation that week. So I basically publish a weekly report which goes out to our clients, and our clients who read our reports, they basically make decisions whether to buy or sell that commodity. So for example, PVC, you must have heard of PVC, polyvinyl chloride. That is a chemical that goes into so many things, and one of those things is pipes, which are used everywhere. So I study, to give you an example, I study the prices of PVC, put them in the report along with all other explanation, and the people who read this, they are generally buyers and sellers of PVC, so they need to know the accurate price in the market, right? So they make their business decisions based on the information in that
Damini,
report.
we are not just talking about what is today's price. We are talking about making predictions and forecasts. Forecasts, right?
Exactly.
So what could it be 1 year, 1 month from now, and so on, which determines how business decisions. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So exactly. So I was coming to that. So that is the more analytical side of my role, where we make, we predict what the prices will be, and we look at relations between different prices. If the oil price goes up, then what is the impact on, different petrochemicals? So I think that I really like what I do, because it has the power to impact so many decisions, that are being made all over the world, which are so very important to to businesses. So I think it's very interesting. So that's,
you have interesting days. So just to put it in perspective, I mean, you are talking like hardcore economics professional. When did you both finish your bachelor's degrees? Which year?
In
both of us
2018.
finished in 2018. Yes.
2018. So you're just about 4 years removed from your bachelor's degree, which is not that long ago. And so it's very exciting to hear you talk about these geopolitical events and all of this good stuff. And so what I gathered was coding skills are important in nowadays in economics, and we heard that in biological sciences of all things. And so coding skills are really important. Analytical skills are really important. You've got to love working with data, and then teamwork. Sanjana talked about, which seems to be important in everything that we do these days. So I'm going to take you back now to your time in the 8, 9, 10 standards. When you were in your teens and you were figuring out, okay, what do I want to do next? I would like to understand, and I'm going to start with you, Damini. I want to understand what was your thought process. At what point did you decide that economics is what I want to do, and what were your interests, etc.? So just walk us through that journey during those years.
Yeah. So it's not always easy knowing what you want to do back when you're in school. You don't always have, not everybody has a clear idea of what they want to do. And I was exactly the same way in the ninth and 10th. But what I did have a general idea of was that I knew what subjects I liked and what I didn't like. So I knew that medicine was something I didn't want to do, so because I didn't particularly like biology. So I knew that that was something I was not interested in. I didn't particularly like physics either. So I knew that engineering was not something that I would see myself doing long term. But what I did like was I liked keeping myself being aware of what was happening in the world. I liked reading about businesses. I used to read magazines on that. And so I knew that I liked understanding how the way the world works. And but I still wasn't very sure of what exactly I wanted to do. So in the 11th standard, I took physics, chemistry, maths, and we had an option between computers, biology, and economics. So I thought economics would be something new, something interesting. So I took it up, and I realized that I really, really liked it, and I really enjoyed studying it. So I continued, studying economics in my bachelor's and my master's. So I would say that it was, serendipity somehow that I landed up in economics, but it's something that I really enjoy. So that was,
okay.
My path.
How about you, Sanjana?
Yes, so for me, we should tell everyone that Damini and I are actually from the same school, and we are classmates from third grade till 12th grade. So just like Damini, even after 10th, even I have studied physics, chemistry, maths, and economics. Regarding what made me
just to interrupt you,
yes.
Just to interrupt you, there are a lot of St. Mary students here in a session.
Okay.
And the
Yes,
and the economics teacher is
yeah,
also here. Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. All right. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
we both
Yeah,
are
go
alumni
on.
of St.
Yeah.
Mary's School.
we are both, yeah.
We both are alumni of St. Mary's School, Pune. So regarding what made me take this decision is, again, as Damini said, especially as a 10th grader, we both have younger sisters also. And, we have really seen how, after this stage, what goes on into their decision making, how we advise them. So you don't really know what economics is in the 10th grade, right? Not many schools have that option of introducing economics to you. So for me personally, it was just something different. It was just that it's something different. My father advised me that, I think it's a different field. You will, as Adamni said, it's nice. You will understand how businesses work, how governments work, how, because there's microeconomics, if you've heard, which is, say, at an individual level. There's macroeconomics, which is at the government level, at the country level. So, getting advice from my father, from relatives, from teachers, I think that is really something that helped me decide, okay, I think economics can be something interesting. And then, luckily, because we were in Mary's, ISC gave us that option of having physics, chemistry, maths as a backup. So, if I ever wanted to do engineering, the backup was there. But I understand it's not always the case. However, to be candid, it was just about something different and something interesting.
Very, very interesting. So what I'm hearing is that it pays to figure out what is it that you definitely don't want to do, and to understand, where your liking lies, and then dabble in a few things to figure out, okay, what might work for you. So what you did was, you just didn't say, okay, let me take science and see what happens. You also chose to take economics, try it out and see what happens, and that led to so that's a good lesson, to dabble in various things, to try some things out, to so that you get familiar with it. Okay, wonderful. So the next thing I want to understand from you is, so, and you probably answered that already. So Sanjana, I'm going to go to you first. The subject choices in 11th and 12th, probably you already have answered that question. So anything, let's talk about maths, for example. I mean, in hindsight, was it a good decision to do maths?
Yes. So definitely So let me take back. So when, say, my parents were studying, or in that time, economics was considered a very theoretical subject. You're reading, you're just reading about theory, and reading how uh, you're reading research papers, etc. Today, economics is so much more than just theoretical subject. It's an analytical subject. It's not an exact science, as we call it. It's a social science. When when we so now today, when we want to study economics, we need to analyze data, and the way you analyze data, what you understand out of it, the base for that is going to come from studying mathematics, statistics. Damni and I were discussing a little bit earlier that something as simple as differentiation, right? That in a graph, the differentiation of the equation of the graph gives you the slope. Now, we study a lot of graphs in economics, and so just the base for that, what is differentiation, what is integration, that is getting applied in economics. That's what makes it fun also. That you learn all these concepts and then you apply it in your studies or in your uh, work. And so definitely, I would definitely say that having an aptitude for maths gives you an edge when you're studying this subject. You don't have to like it, you don't have to love it, but you definitely have to study it for
Yeah,
sure.
it is handy. So a
Handy.
slightly different question for you, Damini. Sanjana talked about economics as a social science, or maybe you did in your previous answer. Uh, so obviously there is other social sciences at play here. Moving on to subject choices, etc., when you did your graduation and so on, are there some subjects that help you more than others which you should study?
First, definitely, I agree with Sanjana completely that maths is very important when it comes to economics. But if you know, what kind of what field of economics interests you, then definitely, if you like understanding how people make decisions, about spending money, or how people think about it, like you mentioned, behavioral economics. Behavioral economics is a combination of psychology and economics, right? So in that case, taking psychology would help. you know if you know that you want to get into data analysis, those kind of jobs, statistics is a very good subject to have. That is the base of all data analysis, right? So I think these few subjects, or if you know that you want to get into a government sector, or you want to give the UPSC exam or something, that kind, then politics would help you, or political science. So it depends on your area of interest. But in general, I would say no matter which field of economics you want to get into, maths is very handy to take, in the 11th and 12th, to have a good foundation, basically.
And I think Sanjana made a very interesting point that you don't have to love it, but if you get a bit of a handle on it and are familiar with the concepts and can apply those concepts, they can come in quite handy. It's not like you are
Yeah.
doing maths all the time, but applying it can be quite useful in your careers. So great. So Damini, back to you now, with what happens in 11th and 12th and beyond. How do you think about it? What do you do in 11th and 12th if you are going to go for economics as a undergraduate option? Um, so what I'm referring to is, are there entrance exams? What are the good colleges that you can target? How do you prepare? Is it just based on 12th marks? Lots of questions there, but just tell us your
Yeah.
journey in 11th and 12th
Right.
and how you got into graduation.
Right. So, as I mentioned earlier, what subjects I took, so I already had economics in the 11th and 12th. But after that, I knew that I wanted to do economics in a college in India, as opposed to maybe going abroad to do it in a foreign university, right? So the requirements are a little bit different. And if you want to study economics in India, there are a lot of good colleges. There's Delhi University, there's Gokhale Institute in Pune, there's Symbiosis, there's Narsi Monji, there's Ferguson, Saint Xavier, so many options. you know And to get into these universities, most of them, you do have to give entrance tests. So each college has a separate entrance test that you give. And according to me, based on what I have experienced, I would say that self-study is enough for these exams. I wouldn't say that it's necessary to join a coaching class, as long as you study ideally maybe 6 to 8 months before you give the exam. So that would mean maybe in the early to middle 12th standard is when you should start studying for the exams. And depending on, you need to do your research to see what universities there are, and what the syllabus is for the entrance test. So you'll be able to do that by googling. For example, you google Delhi University syllabus, you'll find the syllabus, you'll find the dates of the exam, and you should do all this in advance. And if you want to go outside of India, then you have to give, for undergrad, you have to give an exam called the SAT. So I think that is applicable for doing your undergrad in the US, in UK, even in Singapore, they accept the SAT, which you have coaching classes for. So that is something I know, because I did have friends who did who did a couple of months of that class, and before they gave the SAT. So that's what I know, and based on my experience so far.
Okay. Over to you, Sanjana, your experience.
Yes, I think very similar to Damini is that there are several good colleges coming up. For example, Gokhale Institute earlier didn't have a bachelor's, they just started a bachelor's program. They are otherwise a master's, a research institute, which had a master's and PhD in economics earlier. So there are a lot of good colleges coming up. It's gaining, as you said, a lot of traction nowadays. But yeah, I mean, after 12th standard, I think Damni, they usually also see your percentage in 12th. Sometimes I think DU, St. Xavier's, etc. They have a cutoff, right, for the 12th standard percentage, and then they also have an entrance test on top of that. So yes, that's usually the procedure.
Okay, cool. And I know that both of you went for post-graduation abroad. And I think one of you also said that even if you want to work in the corporate sector, some specialization and MA, MSc in economics would be very, very helpful. So what was that like? How did you choose where you wanted to go and your area of specialization? Did you develop a love for one part of economics in bachelor's? Did you work after bachelor's? So just tell us about that a little bit. And I'll start with Sanjana now.
Yes. So for me, I actually, between my bachelor's and my master's at New York University, I did 1 year master's program at Gokhale Institute in Pune. So I can talk a little bit more about that the way applications work after your bachelor's is similar, that you have to give entrance test again for master's programs in India, whether it's DU, Gokhale Institute, Narsi Munji, they all have master's programs as well, and you have to give entrance test for that. And regarding after bachelor's at Narsi Munji, I can of course only advocate and talk about what I did. Narsi Munji luckily has a very diverse course in economics. The degree that I did, Bachelor of Science in Economics, we were exposed to microeconomics, macroeconomics, financial accounting, or marketing, or environmental economics, developmental. I even studied political science. We even studied a little bit of law, because as an economics, you need to know what the law of the land is. So that gave a good base, a good foundation for me to understand what I like, what I don't like. I understood that I really enjoyed working with microeconomics, which is, again, a very vast subject. I don't know if I'll be able to define it as such. But I enjoyed working with microeconomics. I enjoyed maths and statistics, luckily. So I decided to pursue my master's in this field. And my specialization as such is econometrics and microeconomics. yes, that's about it.
Okay. Damini, what about you? How did you get into the specialization that you got into?
Yeah, so I think it was, I kind of realized it somewhere along my bachelor's, based on the subjects that I had taken. Again, I liked econometrics a lot. I thought it was very interesting. And, just understanding data, things like that. So I realized that the master's course that I wanted to do should be, more focused on how to apply the economics and the economic theories. So my master's was in applied economics. So it was a very all-round course. They taught us econometrics, which is a little bit statistics, along the lines of statistics. They taught us Python, they taught us R, they taught us how to use that to solve economics problems, which was something I found a lot more interesting than just reading, research papers and things like that. So I think I kind of figured it out through my subjects in bachelor's, because I had quantitative techniques, I had econometrics. Sounds complicated, but very interesting. So that's how I figured it out, through bachelor's courses.
Okay.
I want to add one thing over.
Please.
Sorry, I wanted to add something over here. That first, as a student now looking back, it was nice that in bachelor's I had the exposure to so many subjects, right? I don't like, no one should think that masters again is very specialized. As Damini said, both of our masters are pretty well rounded. We are still not considered experts in any field. So for economics, if you want to gain expertise in a field, a PhD is recommended. That, I do a PhD in microeconomics, or even within microeconomics, I do it in a specialization within that. So, you shouldn't be scared. Students shouldn't be scared about the fact that, okay, if I take economics, I will be stuck to it. You will not be stuck with it, because after a bachelor's, if you still don't know what you want to do, go ahead, do a master's. It will give you further in-depth view of what economics entails. And after that, or after bachelor's, you can do a CFA, you can do FRM, which is financial risk management, depending on what you like.
Very good. Okay. So, Damini, tell us about economics as a rewarding profession. So, one question that a lot of kids have, and more importantly, a question that a lot of parents also have, is that can you make a good living doing this? Do you get good salaries? And everyone, when we are talking about salaries and this, that, everyone is thinking about investment banking, becoming a computer programmer, and so on and so forth. As an economist, can you make a good living?
Yeah. Yes. So, it's a very important consideration. Back when I chose to do economics, I thought about it. My parents thought about it. So, I would say that you can definitely make a good living by studying economics, because it's such a wide field. So you can gain expertise in any field you want. And the good thing about economics, you can further your economics education with other degrees, with certifications, things like that. And the good part about it is that, whether you study finance, or you study business, or you study political economics, or government services, these things are necessary, and these things are things that don't get phased out with advancement of technology. So your job won't go away. So we always need experts in these fields. So you can be assured that economics is very rewarding, not only money wise, but also it's something that if you enjoy, you'd have a good time putting it to use. And it's pretty rewarding, even monetary compensation also, I think is totally good.
Cool.
I have no complaints.
Good. Sanjana, what do you think?
Definitely, you can make a good living out of it. I hope we end up making a good living out of it. Uh, so,
But you can see
but
role models,
again,
right? For what you
okay,
are doing, you can see role models who are making a good living, and you can aspire for that. You can see that that is possible.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, in
Yes.
any profession, what I keep hearing from all our
Definitely, definitely,
panelists.
especially uh, to be. Mhm.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
Sorry,
Sanjana.
you were saying something. I was just saying, to be honest, that for me, I still feel that, I've worked for a year or so now, and I still sometimes think that I maybe want to change my profession and get into academia later on. So the good thing with economics is again that it gives me that option. I can go on pursue my PhD right now and then get into academia, get into research. So again, making a good living out of it is not again difficult because there's a certain respect in the society that you are an economist. You can hold up conversations with people. So that way, just other than the monetary benefit, you can also, as Damli said, if you enjoy it, it's really rewarding otherwise.
Hmm. Yeah, so what I keep hearing from many of our panelists is that making a good living is a byproduct of getting really good at something. You know, you get really good at something, and you get really good at something if you like it, and then the rest follows. So, but it's good to hear that you can make a pretty good living pursuing economics. Suniti, you had a question
Yeah.
for them.
I had a question for both of them. So I'm sure the parents can see our two young girls, ladies who are actually living alone in these countries. They went by themselves. They did their post graduation, and then they got a job, and they're all doing it all by themselves. Did you have any problems, or did you have any obstacles when when you on your way to getting a great job and living in a foreign city, and just battling your day to day your routines? And is it any different for you as women compared to the men who do it or the boys who do it?
Dami, should I go first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, I did I was in Pune, 12th standard. After that, I did my bachelor's from Bombay. So it helped me that I went away from home during my bachelor's. That really prepared me to when I was coming to New York. I knew what it was to like live alone, have to make my own decisions, just understand what right and wrong is. And I would definitely suggest that if you can go out and stay alone somewhere, definitely helps you in building your personality. You realize what kind of a person you are when you're living alone, really. So it was difficult, of course, at times, but you have friends around you. You have people around you always who are willing to help. It's not a bad world. So uh, it's it's not it wasn't a bad experience at any point. Coming to New York was even better because here at so in the US at a master's level, they consider you a adult now, right? Because in if you remember, like if you know in US, every child is out of the house by 18. So by the time I came here when I was 22, I'm considered an adult over here. So I had to take up a part-time job. I had to pay my own bills. I had to do my own rent. So all that really helped me again to get my work ethic in place to understand what I'm going to like, not like. So it's definitely a nice experience living out on your own.
So before I go to Damini to get her perspective, right after Damini speaks, we are going to go to a question answer session, and I have opened the chat window. So if you already have questions, you can start typing them in. Over to you, Damini, your perspective on making your own life in a foreign country on your own.
I think it's been a great experience for me so far. I won't say that there were no challenges. I went directly from Pune to Singapore. And of course there was COVID, which struck in between, so that we were on quarantine for a while and things like that. So of course those things made it a little bit difficult. But I think when you're put in a situation, you learn to work by yourself, you learn to figure things out. And I think that's exactly what I did. Like Sanjana said, I learned how to what the taxes are in this country. I learned stuff, just basic stuff like that, what the rules are. And I think a place like Singapore is one thing I have to say, that it's extremely safe. Being a girl, I had absolutely no issues. My parents were very reassured that Singapore, if there is a good place, it's Singapore. So so I think for women, it gives you a lot of freedom. It really allows you to focus on your job, on your studies, all that. So I think overall it's been a great experience. No
Very,
problems at all.
very reassuring. And you said there about having to figure out the taxes and so on. You are economists, you better know that stuff.
Yeah.
You will be advising other people on what to do. Anyway, so thank you very much for those answers. I am going to hand it to Suniti to start the Q&A session. Suniti, over to you. Suniti, you are on mute.
All right. Okay. So the first question that has come in from Pramiti is, will our 10 standard percentage matter wherever we go? Yeah, any one of you can answer this. Yeah.
I would say it does. It does. Because when you look back at it 20 years later, you may not, you may think it doesn't matter, but for your immediate the steps that you take, it does matter, because you do count it, especially in times like these COVID, and we've been counting percentage. 11 standard percentages counted, 10 standard. So yes, 10 standard percentages do definitely matter in the short run, is what I would say.
And I think working towards it also teaches you discipline to have a goal and work towards it. Yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. So Khushi has a question. Can I achieve the same thing taking commerce in 11th and 12th grade? Is it possible?
I can answer that. Although none of us are from commerce, we have had friends who have done commerce and then got into the field of economics. I would say as long as you have, because I think commerce does offer economics as a subject in India, and you have your maths. Maths is an optional subject usually, which I would recommend taking if you further want to get into the field of economics. So yes, you can definitely do the same as long as you have maths as well.
Okay. Thank you. So economics is basically counted in science or commerce? So commerce, I guess. Or
commerce,
what do you think?
I think it was just ISC, like the board we studied from, which gave us an option of doing science, like PCM and economics. Usually, I think it's just commerce.
Traditionally, commerce.
Yeah.
Stream.
Okay. Do colleges abroad take anything else into account for admission besides the SAT scores? For undergrad,
yes.
SAT is for undergrad, right?
Yeah, undergrad. Yes, they do actually. They look at your they also look at your scores, your 12 standard scores, and depending on other things, they'll ask for a statement of purpose, which is like an essay as to why you want to get into the college. If you're applying for a scholarship, you have to write an essay for that as well. So there is a whole bunch of documents actually that you give as part of your application. So it's not just SAT score. They also look at your extracurricular activities, any community service you've done. All that is also quite important while applying.
So the kind of careers that both of you have, so Arjun has this question, do we have these kind of career options in India?
I can speak for my profession, that probably not. My profession, economic consulting, is a niche career, even here in the US. However, what I'm essentially doing is working with businesses, right? So today, if I want to go and switch my career in India, I would probably be working with firms like PwC or KPMG, which are consultancy based services. So, yes, consultancy based professions are ample in India. And if you say study abroad and then go back to India, it's even better because you have an exposure of how things work somewhere else and now you're applying them there.
Yeah. So I just want to add one quick thing, Suniti, on that question about is SAT the only thing they look at for undergrad admissions. I can tell you, I know a lot of people who have applied, gone for undergrad studies. You know, they look at you, they take a much more wholesome approach to looking at the student rather than just, you know, your marks and what score you get in an entrance test. So they look at your motivation. For example, you know, Damini, I think, talked about a statement of purpose. What is your motivation? Why do you want to do it is really important for them. Why do you want to come to this college? So, and other things, you know, community service. Do you have other interests? Do you play sports? Are you a wholesome individual, or are you just a one track person who does one thing? So there's a lot of stuff. And I think if you want to go abroad for undergrad, that's a whole another topic. And you might really want to start doing some research, starting 11th standard, to start doing some prep work in that direction. Yeah, over to you. Back to you, Suniti.
Yeah. It's a little easier to go abroad for a postgrad degree. And it's like, I think someone from our previous sessions had also mentioned it's a little cheaper because you're paying only for 1.5 or 2 years instead of 4 years.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So, all right. Our next question is this she has already answered. Is computers important for economics? I think so. Yeah. Computers,
yes.
coding is important.
Yes, you will learn it eventually. It's not important for getting into the career of economics, but over the course of your studies, you will learn it at some point.
Okay. Okay, Shrutika has this question. Why did you decide to go to foreign countries instead of India? What is the work difference?
For me, I decided to come to Singapore because I found I found the course that I wanted, which wasn't available in India as such. You know, you have a lot of masters in economics courses in India, but applied economics, which was a more all-round course, was I found one here in Singapore. And in terms of work difference, it really depends on what kind of work you're looking at. You know, of course, one would say that if you go abroad, you probably get a higher salary than in India. But it really depends on your career choice and your career path. You know. So.
Okay. So this is another question. I think that a lot of parents or a lot of students probably have this in as a. It says, is economics under the art stream the same as economics under the commerce stream? Is it? And also, actually, there is economics. You can do economics as a BA degree, and you can do economics as a BSc degree. So, what is the difference between the two? And also doing in 11th and 12th, doing economics under the art stream and economics under commerce stream.
Sanjana?
I think under commerce and science, it would be the same, probably. I am not sure about art stream, honestly. I don't want to give any wrong advice. I'm not sure how economics comes under the art stream. And I think the next part of the question was, as you said, there's bachelor's in science and bachelor's of arts. Bachelor's of science, that is what I did. I think the science part of it is really just the a heavy focus on maths and statistics. Sorry, maths, statistics, and analytical subjects. But I think, Damini, it's the same for you in Bachelor's of
Yeah.
Arts, really.
I did a bachelor's of arts, but I chose my subjects in such a way that I included maths and statistics, and I think it depends on the subjects you choose also as part of your bachelor's degree.
I think
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. I think in Bachelor's of Arts you have to choose, whereas in Bachelor's of Science it's a given.
Yeah,
I didn't have an
correct.
option to not take maths. Yeah, I had to do it.
Right.
Yeah, and
So one of our students.
I think when you're talking about the subject choices in 11th and 12th, whether you should take it with arts or whether you should take it with commerce or whether you should take it with science, it really depends on what sort of, if you have a wider interest, what is your backup plan
Yeah.
and what is your other interest?
Correct. Correct.
Club
Yeah.
it with that so that
Yeah.
if you are not sure and there is some other interest you have, you have the ability to branch off into that direction.
Yeah.
So I think you should determine it more by that rather than the name. Is it part of arts? Is it part of commerce? What
Yeah.
interests you? Make it part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
Okay.
just to add to that, in the 11th standard, I think the reason we took science also was because we didn't want to rule out, because even though economics traditionally comes under commerce, we didn't want to rule out, any science related professions, because, like we said, we weren't sure getting into it, but that was the reason. But if you're sure that commerce is the way you want to be a CA, you want to go into economics, you want to do law, if you're 100% sure, then I think commerce is as good a stream to take.
Yeah.
So one of the questions is, what if we don't take maths in 11th and 12th? And I think Sanjana had answered that maths is a huge help. Even if you don't like it, just stick to it, and
Definitely.
it'll help them out, right, Sanjana?
Yeah. They are saying that what if someone just absolutely hates maths, doesn't like maths, but really likes the idea of economics? I mean, is it okay if they don't take maths and do economics? Is it going to hinder them later? What do you think? Based on your experience, what do you think? Putting you
That's
on
a
the
difficult
spot
question
here.
to answer.
Putting you on the spot.
Not putting me on, just making me think from a person, from a point of view, because I have never, luckily, I enjoy math statistics, so it wasn't a problem for me. However, of course, we had friends who, who didn't like it, and we used to have them study groups. I think the question is, if I don't
what if we don't take maths?
What if we don't take maths in 11th, 12th? You're going to, then what happens after you study maths till 10th? Say you don't take it in 11th, 12th, and when you do your bachelor's, you will have to do it again. So that 2 years of gap that you do of not studying maths, it's going to make studying difficult, and studying it in bachelor's even more difficult. So I would suggest that if you can, keep it.
I had some friends who didn't take maths in the 11th and 12th, but decided to do economics. So for them, their first and second years were like playing catch up, So I think it helps to have it.
Yeah. Okay. Very nice.
So the next question is, if your SAT score is pretty high, pretty low, will they still give you more or pretty high? Will they still give more weightage to 11th and 12th marks? So if the SAT score is
it's a set proportion, as far as I know, that maybe 60% they consider your SAT marks and 40% is weightage is your 12th standard. That's my understanding. Sanjana, I don't know. Maybe you know.
I'm not sure, honestly. I don't want to again say the wrong thing, so I will say I'm not sure about this.
Yeah, and based on what I know, it's they are looking at you as an individual. What is your motivation? How committed are you, and so on. So they look at the whole thing and say, yeah, you know what, this person was serious about this 12th standard and then SAT and so on. So I don't think anyone knows exactly how they make these decisions, but focus on on everything and try and do as well as you can. So to improve your
Even
chances.
I would say that, even if your SAT score is not very high, if you have, you have done a lot of, say, public speaking or sports or communities, exceptional, in that field, then I think they would even be willing to overlook a slightly lower SAT score if,
Yeah.
you have excelled elsewhere.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, there's another question here. For behavioral economics, what stream would you take in 11th?
I can go on. I can answer that one. One, it sounds very fancy, behavioral economics. I would suggest that start by reading more about it. Especially, there are great books, as Nitin said, that by Daniel Kahneman or Dan Ariely. It's called. I think the easiest one to start with would probably be Freakonomics. There's a part two to it called Super Freakonomics. So I think you can start by reading. And as for what stream do you take? Honestly, I have professors who are engineers, did a PhD in economics, and then got into behavioral economics. So there is no set stream. If you enjoy it, of course, doing bachelor's in economics and then master's, or no, again, I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but if you do a bachelor's in India, you can directly come to a PhD program in the US. You don't really have to do a master's.
Really?
So you can do, yes, so you can do a bachelor's in India. And then the way the PhD works in the US is the first year of PhD is like a master's, a mini master's program. And then you go on to do your research from second year onwards. And it's usually a 5 to 6 year course, a PhD course. So the stream, you can get into it after any stream, but yes.
Okay, so maybe one or two more, Suniti, we have to
Yeah.
let them go.
Yeah.
I know it's pretty late for Damini.
So maths and science have an open, maths and science has a lot of scope for many careers in India. Is it the same for economics?
I would say so. I mean, they are different, careers that you take up. You do math, science, you would probably get into a different set of careers. But I think economics has just as many options as maths and science does. So yeah.
All right, I think that's about it. Yeah, we are done with our questions. And
so one final question from me. Are you happy doing what you're doing? So Sanjana, you first. Happy. That smile says it all.
Definitely. And yes, in hindsight, I'm happy that I made the right choices. Although I do feel that my economics studying is not over. I think I might do a PhD later on. So yes, definitely happy, loving the exposure, the different things you learn while studying economics is great. You meet a lot of intellectuals in this field, which is again a very nice thing. Yeah.
What about you, Damini? Are you happy doing what you're doing?
I'm very happy doing, and I'm so glad that I ended up here. Even though the path was winding, but yes, I am happy with what I'm doing. So
yeah, and that wonderful smile again says it all. Okay, yeah. Back to you, Suniti.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sanjana and Damini, for giving us your precious time and helping the children here on this session. Do remember tomorrow we have young professionals from the field of the Indian Administrative Service, and be sure to sign in and check out what they have to say. So if you haven't already, me an RSVP on the number that has already been posted here. Nitin, can you just type it out one more time?
Sure.
And the recordings will be available to you. I will be sending out so that you can access our recordings. Just missed it. Yeah.
And
okay.
I think I just want to say from Damini and me that I think it's a great session. These are great sessions If I
Yeah.
had it back in my time, I would definitely attend. As I think you told me earlier that you had someone from design. Today you have us,
Yeah.
then you have someone from IS. So I think, yeah, thank you so much for having these sessions. I'm sure
Thank
they're
you.
helping the kids.
Thank you, both of you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you for having us. And great, it's a great initiative. I would have attended too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Cool. Okay. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, both of you, and everyone who attended and asked wonderful questions. Because asking good questions adds to the the to the conversation in a positive way for everyone who is attending. So thank you, and wish both of you all the very best. I hope to see you both of you on the cover of Time sometime, and and seriously, all the very best to you and to everyone who attended the session. All the very best to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Okay,
much. Yes.
bye now.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye bye.
you.